I'm Michelle from Cannawell with Michelle. I'm a certified cannabis health coach who helps people find relief from many different ailments using medical cannabis. In this series, I'll talk to patients and colleagues who have incredible health journeys with cannabis. They use cannabis as part of their treatment plan for everything from Crohn's to PTSD and chronic pain. We'll hear their stories about how medical cannabis has helped them manage their conditions and feel better than they ever have before. Thanks for watching. Coming back, Nikki Lawley, who has an incredible story, and we had an interview almost a year ago to the day. We talked about her traumatic brain injury and how cannabis came to her aid and saved her life. But during this time in her life, she had so many other things going on as well. And some of it was a little personal and hard to talk about, but she's ready to share about some of these issues so that we can shine a light on it and help other people. And I'm interested to find how cannabis helped you through these other things. Where in your journey through all of that health did these other issues come up, and even the relationship with doctors on this level? I know that you struggled with doctors going through your traumatic brain injury, supporting your cannabis use for the healing of it, and maybe we'll just get into if that was a struggle with these other issues as we come up with them as well. Okay. So thank you so much for coming, Nikki.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about, so we're talking about autoimmune disorders here. And so there was a lot that started with this. Maybe give us a little description of what we're talking about here and how it's come up as an autoimmune disease. And we'll explore that a little.
Okay, so back in 2006, I was working, everything was normal, but I had a child that was very challenging. And I really was losing it with him as far as patients go, as far as like, he wasn't doing just like little kid bad things. He was doing like stealing, running away, creating all this drama, like out of control behaviors that were not manageable the traditional way. So I was feeling really angry all the time. And I made the mistake of actually going to a psychiatrist saying, yeah, I'm feeling a little homicidal towards my child, in a joking way, but they totally took that dead serious.
Wow.
And I had never been on antidepressants, never been on anything. And this was, like I said, back in 2006, something around there. And they put me on lithium. And lithium is like, for those of you who don't know, that's like for extreme psychosis cases. Like, you traditionally don't just start there, usually you build up to that level, but clearly she saw something that she didn't view it as joking. And when you use lithium and you have a thyroid disorder, lithium totally kills the thyroid. It literally counteracts and creates a whole new storm of things in your body. So lithium is
Out of balance.
Way out of balance.
Yeah.
And so I found I only was on the lithium for a very short period of time because it had so many side effects, and I was tired all the time. It didn't help my want to kill my son attitude either, because he just continued his same toxic life.
Yeah.
And but I gained all this weight, Michelle. I gained like a huge amount of weight, and it wasn't like I was sitting on the couch eating Oreos all night followed with a chaser of a half gallon of ice cream.
Issues, right?
It was like huge weight gain. And my doctor's like, he finally figured it out. I had a hypoactive thyroid, like it was like slow. And so I already had metabolism issues going on. But when you have a patient that has a thyroid problem, a known thyroid problem, the very last drug you ever put them on is lithium. And so as a result, I then understood where this weight gain came, but it literally halted my metabolism. So at that point in 2007, I was like homing in at 187. I broke my leg in 5 places. And when that happened, I it was just all the weight on me. It was like literally my little frame couldn't handle all this extra weight.
Wow.
And so at that point, I made the decision to go get the lap band, actually in Canada, paid for out of pocket. It's a weight loss surgery that's very reversible. It's a small band at the top of your stomach. It basically does what gastric bypass does without rewiring your whole system.
Okay.
So I got the lap band. It was incredibly successful. But then my thyroid went the opposite way. So instead of being too slow, now it's going way too fast. Took me off all the thyroid medicine. I'm still losing weight. Now I'm down to like 92 pounds. Like I was looking kind of sickly. I mean, my arms were like this.
Wow, such
and
extremes thought got to be so hard on the body.
oh my God. Like, I mean, it was so extreme. Like my work pants just literally fell off me. I had to put like the tightest belt. Like I really, it wasn't healthy and I wasn't trying to lose weight, right? Like, and I was eating like normal, but so that's when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. So Hashimoto's, for those of you that don't know, basically throws your body into hypo, too slow, or hyper, too fast, metabolism regulations. So different stressors, different environments create the Hashimoto's to do that full on swing because most people are either one or the other. Hashimoto's is a true autoimmune disease that basically tells your system that you don't have a thyroid usually, or, you know, your thyroid's working too hard, but it's really kind of dead inside, not really working at all. So it's a really kind of crazy phenomena. But I finally was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, like after the lap band, after this whole lithium nightmare. And, you know, I was like, I have Hashimoto's. What the hell is that? And just kind of what we were saying before the show, you know, you hadn't heard of anyone with Hashimoto's and now you hear about it constantly.
Yeah.
So that was my kind of Hashimoto's journey.
Crazy. So I know there's more to this story. So that's just the first step. So Hashimoto. Now, did you use cannabis to help with that yet, or is that still too early in your?
That was too early in my journey, really.
Okay.
But prior to that, I had been bitten by a tick in 1999. So I had Lyme disease. Okay. So Lyme disease has kind of been, although I was treated with ibuprofen for 6 weeks and, you know, had all these different horrible symptoms, it seemed to be under control. Like after that 6-week dose of wicked high doses of antibiotics, it seemed to fix me. So I, you know, am I ever cured of Lyme? Not really, but go explain why my Lyme titer is negative now. But again, I don't know how that happens when you clearly had Lyme disease and now all of a sudden, you know, it doesn't show that you ever have. So it's just kind of weird, right? And Lyme disease can cause a host of other issues as well, not really relating to the thyroid, but a lot of dysregulation of your body systems, everything from headaches and cognitive function issues and things like that. Well, in 2014, at 44 years old, I decided it's time to get a tummy tuck and get the mommy makeover and get the toxic tatas. And
well, you didn't know they were toxic then, so you weren't ordering yourself some toxic tatas.
No, but you know, I was looking for that itty bitty, you know, Dolly Parton look. You know, I was super tiny. I needed the big uppity boobies, and literally, it was sort of like I was in an identity crisis, for lack
Right.
of a better term, and
Absolutely.
I just, this is before my brain injury. So,
Before
you know,
cannabis.
before cannabis.
Hmm.
And, but just to clarify, I mean, had I used cannabis before? Yes, but not as medicine. And it
Right.
was more of a social thing, whatever. But,
Relationship.
so on Canada Day 2014, I got my new set of toxic breast implants. And, I did my homework, man. I like researched every kind of thing about them, and, the whole thing about getting silicone versus saline. At the end of the day, both of them are made of the same shell.
Mm.
So whether it's a silicone implant or a saline implant, there's still silicone on the outside.
Okay.
And so,
And yours
uh,
didn't burst, so it was just the implant itself that was the alien.
yeah, it's the alien. I mean, the silicone doesn't help, but so I did all my homework, and I was told, oh, these are lifetime devices. It's not like the old breast implants. And just a little side note for our US listeners or viewers, the FDA is a really unique organization on how they approve medical devices. So let's just use a heart valve, okay? A heart valve that in 1977 was state of the art, and it was amazing. They did all this research on monkeys, on people, on all these other things. But as long as you can show an improvement of the model of heart valve from 1977 to 2024, if you show an improvement of style and everything, you don't have to test that substance or that
Ooh.
device on humans. Like, you don't have to. It just shows an improvement of existing technology. So you don't have to go through all those FDA trials and things that they
Hmm.
used to make you do pre 1977. It just gets grandfathered in. Well, the same thing with breast implants, and the same thing with IUDs or hips or anything like that.
Okay.
And this blew my mind. Okay. Like, I knew nothing about that. But you'd heard of how bad silicone implants were, and they were making women sick, giving them cancer, things like that. So people automatically were turned off by silicone. But all these Brazilian models had them, and all these Europeans had them, and like, this was the best. They felt natural, they looked natural, they were just going to be your hot boobies.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, I got those most expensive, lifetime, perfect, perky products and put them in. And then all of a sudden, the health issues started coming. The healing was exceptionally slow, especially on one of the breasts. But again, I don't care. I'm in pain, but
It
I'm
would be worth
loving
it,
the
but
look. It's worth it. It doesn't matter. And everything was just going normal, right? Uh, what's funny is my brain injury was in 2016. So it was 2 years after I got my implants. And I didn't realize the time frame of when my allergies started becoming absolutely unbearable, out of control. And it actually was not after my head injury, it was after my implants.
right.
So I got them in July of 2014. In October, November, December, I had severe anaphylactic reactions to, one was a red velvet milkshake that was cross contaminated with some kind of nut. One was red juju fish,
Okay.
and one was a hydrocodone from the dentist. And I went into major reactions like 3 months in a row. Like, nothing like that's ever happened to me. And
Right.
then carries on into 2015. And then I get hurt. And again, it wasn't like every month, but I mean, I constantly had a rash somewhere. I constantly had itching, annoyance, short fuse. Like, there was just constant turmoil in my body. Like, nothing was ever just happy and content, and that little look that I wanted to be, the Dolly Parton, never really actually came to be, because I always had hives, or I always had
Right.
something else
Oh,
going
yeah.
on. But I started getting allergy testing, and I started going on a very frequent basis. And in 2016, after my head injury, I had an anaphylactic reaction at the dentist to Novocaine. And I mean, like, they freaked out. Like, they don't have that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, then contrast died shortly thereafter, again, after the head injury. So I started thinking that all these allergies started happening at that point. But when I got my doctor's records and I literally was able to go through my paper chart and see that timeline,
Right.
it blew me away. And you ask, well, why did you care about that? Well, I didn't until one of my coworkers, because I started showing pictures of my allergy tests. Oh, we're testing seafood today. Check this out. I mean, I blew up. Oh, check out the nuts. And I've eaten walnuts all my life. All of a sudden, I can't eat walnuts. All of a sudden, I can't eat hazelnuts. Things that you just wouldn't expect to be a problem. And they would do these tests. And so my former coworker and a fellow nurse wrote me, and she said, Nikki, have you ever looked at like your breast implants as being the cause? I wrote her back, like, how dare you think it could possibly be my lifetime beautiful devices that I spent all this money on? And I'm like, it's not them. Well, I mean, this just happened since my head injury, right? And so then again, something popped up about breast implant illness across. Actually, no, there was a race car driver who actually had this exact problem, that her implants were making her sick. And so I like read into that, and I'm like, huh. And then it just kept firing at me.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, they say that the phone is always listening to you.
Yep.
Well, if it wasn't, it sure
It was a
didn't.
God thing then, right? Like all these
It
things
was like a
coming at you.
universe thing. It literally just,
Yeah.
every time you turn around. Then, like, I found two people on Grand Island, this little island I live on in New York State. They had breast implant illness. And so I went, and so you asked, like, what happened then? And I was pretty much told, you're absolutely crazy. There's nothing wrong with your implants. Then in the mail in 2019, I get a recall notice from Allergen, the brand of breast implants I have, saying, oh, by the way, you have the textured gummy bear silicone whatever implants and style 410. And there's been you don't have to do anything about this, but we're required to tell you that there have been a 37% increase in this blood cancer called ALCL, like a lymphoma
Right.
type of cancer, with people that have your type of implants. But it's okay. It's probably not going to happen to you.
Oh my goodness.
And do you have any symptoms of this? Because, we won't pay to get them out, but we will pay to give you a new toxic bag to put in the current toxic bag's place. And literally, I was like, wow, maybe it is the breast implants. Maybe I don't have a head injury at all. Maybe it's just these breast implants that are really messing me up. And so then there became that doubt, like, oh my God, what if it's not my head? What if it's really the toxic titties? And so, and I called my plastic surgeon first after I got this letter, and he's like, yeah, you do have that brand. But you know what? I've done hundreds of these and nobody's had problems. So you're fine. Why don't you come in and I'll take a check at them? And if there's any kind of evidence, we'll talk about it. Well, and he said, but then you know what he said? This is the best. He said, if you do take them out though, you will not be happy. and like,
Yeah.
I'm like, but isn't healthy and alive better than unhappy and not so attractive? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. you tell me, Michelle,
Yeah,
what's the
absolutely.
bigger priority? But so I go to him again, says nothing. Then again, all of a sudden, like things just keep flooding my inbox about, the FDA is recalling, mandated allergen, recalls these. And I'm seeing all this news about it. And I'm seeing like people taking on cases. I'm seeing all these women with cancer. And then I'm looking at some of these explant pictures of women that have had the explant. And OMFG, I'm thinking, oh no, I can't look like that. Like, so then again, I'm like, it can't be the implants. It's just got to be my brain injury. But then I went after my friend Lisa, the nurse, came along, like 2017, 2018 ish with this little helpful Heloise hint. I then go to my doctor and I said, you still have my paper chart, don't you? He's like, yeah, you're like one of 10 because you had so much stuff in it, we couldn't scan it all. So, so he,
Well, that says a lot right there, right?
right? And I like looked at all my weights. I looked at like the huge jump right after the lithium. Like I got a whole story
Yeah,
on my health history, like one that just blew me away. Like it really wasn't after my head injury, it was after the implants. And so when I mentioned this to my doctor, he's like, yeah, I don't know. That sounds fishy. And then the plastic surgeon's already blown me off.
so
And then
much.
the two girls that had their explant and they're so happy and they just all kept telling me, it's definitely the implants, you've got to get them out. You have to get them out. Start a GoFundMe, do whatever you have to do because it's $20,000 surgery. And no matter what, you got to get them out. They're making you sick. And then it just seemed like the allergies again started getting
Yeah.
worse again. And like, the more drugs they gave me for my head injury, the more reactions I was having. And I went to a plastic surgeon that did their explant, and he did not convince me whatsoever that this was a thing, but women say they feel better, so I keep doing them. But he still put implants in. How
Right.
can you not believe in something but still put the toxic bags in people, right? So I found a doctor in Michigan in January of 2023 that took them out for me and does what they call an en bloc capsulectomy. So what happens is the pivots and divots in these texture gummy bear implants basically store and create scar tissue around the implant because it's a foreign body. It's like it doesn't want it in your body. So all these mast cells, which are also what I had because of the implants, mast
Yes, this
cell
is so
activation.
perfect. Like I know I was hoping you get into this mast cells. When you send me that article about it, it really explains the allergens, the reactions to food, the reactions to all the different chemicals and stuff in your body, the pharmaceuticals, all these things. Yeah, let's get into this mast cell discussion. This is
So the mast cell thing was a real game changer. Once I started doing research on breast implant illness, once I was convinced, like, okay, I've really got to look at this, even if these chicks look horrible, you know, I don't know, I'll just wear a funky bra that like just creates blow up boobs or something. But I was gonna do it. I made the decision and again, because I really didn't know, is it the head injury or is it this mast cell thing because of the breast implants?
right.
So the mast cells basically are histamine that just kind of runs through your body, but when it doesn't like something, that level goes way up, and it goes way up to the point where it can't naturally come down. So one of the ways I began to ward off these severe anaphylactic reactions, because every time you give yourself epinephrine, you literally have to go to the hospital because you can have a rebound reaction.
So
So that
let me
means
just like fill that in there a little bit because especially because we're talking about autoimmune, that this is the mast cells are the first responders in our immune system, right? They're coming to
right.
aid first thing. As soon as there's a foreign object in our body, whether it's a chemical and they want to expel it from our body, or it's a foreign object that they want to, close off from the rest of the body so it doesn't contaminate, and that's where it builds up all that scar tissue around it.
Right.
So yeah, so the first responders in our immune system. Okay, back to you.
Okay. So yeah, good. Thanks for throwing that in there. But yeah, they're that first responder, and they literally kind of lay dormant until such time as they're needed. It's basically what's behind the fight or the flight. And it literally, when you go into that level of exposure to one of these irritants that your body has deemed inappropriate for you suddenly that day, that you've had all your life and never had an issue with, but like that day when the Novocaine hit, and I literally could not breathe. Like my throat closed off. Nothing was different. I hadn't eaten different things. It was literally my body attacking itself and saying, get that Novocaine out now. And they couldn't figure it out either. Like I literally had to do all this homework and be my own advocate with a brain injury, with this whole mast cell
Right.
thing going on,
Yeah.
with, but I felt like I sounded like a hypochondriac almost,
Right.
because I had all these different things going on. I've got doctors telling me my, neuro scans are normal. So you don't really have a brain injury. But yet at the same time, you're not living in my body, buddy. You don't understand. Like, how do you explain the anaphylactic reactions? How do you explain that it all started after the implants? How do we explain? So then I had another doctor say to me, well, have you looked at cervical instability in your neck? And I'm like, what? Like, with all these allergies and everything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, you said you got hit in the head and you're like thrown into a wall. And we have ligaments in our neck. And if those ligaments become damaged, your head no longer sits the way it's supposed to. And it can actually create all this chaos in your head
Would that
that,
still be related to the vagus nerve? Like if it throws that
yes,
off bound?
yes,
Yeah.
at the vagus nerve, your whole vestibular system. Your
Okay.
vestibular totally knocked my vestibular system out of whack. And so anyway, it took forever to get a diagnosis on that. But yes, I ended up did have that, but that's not what was creating the mass. I mean, it might have contributed to it, but I mean, that kind of helped why doctors weren't seeing anything on my brain scan, because it
Right.
originated more at my neck and nobody was looking at my neck.
Yeah.
So,
So, well,
but
and it's interesting in there again, like after reading that article on mast cells, which I just was totally diving into that at 10 o'clock last night. I'm like, I can't put this down. This is so good. But it explains a lot too, and helps connect those dots for me in my head that all of those sensitivities were a result of the first toxin exposure, right? So like even before that, like even if there was other things that you brought into your life that weren't great, but this major thing, right? Like the implant in your body and your body wanting to get rid of them, that was the first trigger of something happening, right? Now your body is sending messages. So this, if it didn't work with the first food that you got a reaction to and you got a rash from it or a sore stomach, and that's like, okay, well, let's try and give her this signal somewhere else. Something else isn't going on. So that's where all the different things, the walnuts that you could eat forever, maybe you get lactose intolerant all of a sudden, maybe peanut allergies out of the blue, right? People ask all the time, why are there so many more peanut allergies? And this is also environmental. All the toxins that we're putting into our environment and our lifestyles are causing these symptoms to come out. And then how the doctors are just going to start looking at each of those symptoms, and like you said too, like, well, let's solve this allergy problem, well, let's solve this rash, well, let's look at this, let's look
why am
at
I
that.
reacting all of a sudden? Like no one
But
could tell
where is
me
the
that.
depth of it, right? And
Right.
I can relate that to my sister who I lost to cancer 12 years ago. So she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But before she knew she had cancer, she had like a head to toe body rash. So she, was monitoring this for a long time, right? Going to the doctor over and over again. The doctor sends her to dermatologist because it's a skin rash.
Right.
But did they know that the skin rash was the signal that she has cancer in her body? No,
Right.
they didn't treat that. I mean, it came out eventually later, and through different methods of finding the cancer, but it wasn't because,
The doctor was so smart and caught it so early,
right.
like,
And now they're having this mast cell talk about that, like that they're, all of these things that are going on in our body first, and then and then start to look deeper in when we get that first rash, when we get the allergic reaction, when we get the food sensitivities and the discomfort and irritable bowel syndrome and all of these different things, we can connect to all an imbalance in our body, which when you start paying attention to your endocannabinoid system, which is maintaining all that balance, it's going to send those cells out to say, hey, pay attention over here. There's something going on that's not in balance. Hey, pay attention over here. There's something else going on that's not in balance. And it's all happening at the same time. Maybe it's our mood. Maybe it's in our mind. Maybe we're angry at our son. And that's turning into toxin in our body, right? That toxic negativity in there too is turning on a switch, and our endocannabinoid system can't do it all without you being present and aware of what's going on. So those signals out there are meant for us to look at and to pay attention to.
And just telling someone to go to a doctor, I'm sorry, like that's one of the biggest things I have to teach other people. Like I was a nurse that listened to doctors. I did what the doctor said. I was obedient. I never questioned it.
Yeah.
Now I question everything because I have to. Because if you're not reading my chart and you're not understanding the progression of where I've been and why I have been, like, I lost all my teeth, friends. I lost all my teeth because of the mast cell activation syndrome. Because I could not get Novocaine anymore, they had to put me under general anesthesia and remove all my teeth 2 different times. That is not covered by insurance. And I couldn't get implants because I didn't have enough tissue. And like the tops are fine, but the
And maybe
bottoms,
your body would have rejected those too.
right?
Right.
Facts. And so, so I got, my breasts removed in 2023. And, people say, well, do you notice a big difference? I notice I don't have pain like I did in my breasts. I noticed that they definitely don't look like they did with implants, but but they didn't turn into that holy scary thing that I saw in so many pictures. Luckily, I had breast tissue pre-implant, so it wasn't as dramatic as some women who had no breast tissue.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate with that, I guess. But did it cure me instantly and I'm no longer allergic to foods? No. I still have issues. I will say I went back to the doctor and had lidocaine retested because it's just so scary to think if you just need stitches, like you won't get any pain reliever. like like no, you gotta put me under for that. Yeah. And they're gonna be like saying like no, suck it up, buttercup. And I don't want to be that person, so I educate people on being your own advocate. So when I went and I had the lidocaine tested, it turns out I'm not allergic to it right now. That doesn't mean my mast cells won't kick up into overdrive if given a full dose of lidocaine, but it gave me reasonable comfort. And I've had it 2 times since and digging out implant things in my mouth. And I haven't had a super bad reaction. I still get the itchy nose and like a little bit of itchy throat, but my throat's not closing. Right. So, and I also dose with massive amounts of Benadryl because that will kind of decrease the level of activity with the mast cells.
Okay.
So I still have mast cell for sure. But I can say I have not had any major anaphylactic reactions since I've had breasts explanted.
So let's tie that all in now with cannabis. And now I know you came to cannabis with your brain injury, and it did amazing things for you. It settled your mind. It made you appreciate life a little more. It just helped to bring you to a better sense of well-being. And then you were still going on a journey with all this breast implant illness through there. So how has this cannabis helped in your autoimmune diseases and your healing journey through your breast implant illness?
I think it allowed me to look beyond what doctors were saying, because I had to do so much research for my TBI and look at alternative treatments and look at, why wasn't I getting better? Like, you had a blow to the head, like football players go through that, like a million of them every game, right? Like one hit to your head should not make it so you can't count, so you can't think, so you can't have all these other symptoms. So having to be my own advocate as a brain injury survivor kind of prepped me for where this was. And I think I got better at it because cannabis allows me to focus and find those articles, be able to read those articles, to be able to say, oh shit, this makes sense. And
Yeah.
I guess I got to pay 20 grand again to get all my boobs out. Cost 8,500 to get them in, now 20 grand to get them out. Go figure that math. But yeah, it's a thing. So cannabis allowed me, I think it allows me to be more objective instead of like going down that woe's me hole.
Right.
It's like I can look and say, well, you still got breast tissue and you don't look like that. So you got something to be thankful for. It allows you to kind of see the good, even when it's a shitty situation. And it's not false positivity, I don't think. I
Right.
feel like the plant just allows you to not make such a big deal out of things that would be normally a big deal.
Which helps keep the nervous system regulated, which helps keep all of those other things at bay, right? Like when we can regulate our endocannabinoid system in that calm space, and cannabis helps with that so much, right? Then yeah, you're not going to get reactions to the lidocaine so much anymore, right? Because our body isn't in that fight and flight mode and trying to expel things that are not supposed to be there. We're in healing, we're in rest and digest, and our body is open to change and to healing, right? What about being able to get off of some of the pharmaceuticals that doctors were giving you? Like, of course, you don't want lithium in you anymore to help you
That
make,
was discontinued a long time ago.
right? But even
that
other pharmaceuticals, like I know that there's a lot of people that have like gotten rid of all pharmaceuticals and have been able to just use cannabis, a natural plant medicine, not toxins that are created by man, right?
Right. So I'm off, like I'll still be on thyroid medicine and cholesterol medicine. Like that's just not
Yeah.
something I've been able to come off of. And I still do take Zoloft, but other than that, I'm off all pharmaceuticals. And the only reason I can't seem to get off Zoloft is even when I wean off, even when I'm using CBD, THC, the brain zaps because I've been on it for so long,
Yeah.
just like, and the nausea. It's like, it's easier to take it. Is it the right answer here? No, but for me, it's like there's too many things going
Right.
on. We just can't change everything overnight. Cannabis is amazing every way, but you also have to change your mindset and your
Yes.
intention.
Yes.
Like
It is something that helps bring awareness to your life. And
yes,
bring awareness to the present moment. So now you can tackle those underlying issues that have caused you to be in the state you're in, right?
exactly. And I mean, a lot of people don't give cannabis a chance because maybe it's not the right cultivar for them or the right consumption method, or they have a bad experience on an edible, or they didn't feel anything on an edible, or there's so many reasons that they just don't see, that doesn't work for me.
Well,
But
it's so
you have to
complicated
use
out there
it.
in the world too. There's so many products, so many
Right,
different combinations. And, your mind can go whirly trying to, keep up with it all.
right. But I find cannabis is a phenomenal tool in my toolbox for all of my health conditions, whether it's been the autoimmune, the TBI, the mental wellness, the chronic pain, the cognitive function. I mean, these are all things cannabis has allowed me to improve my quality of life with.
Right. So have you dialed it in specifically for different things? Like when you just need a rest from your brain injury, is it one thing? If you're looking to help with your Hashimoto's or other things, like, so do you have different regimens for each of those?
So, as far as like any kind of secret recipe for any of the autoimmune management stuff, not so much. But I find that if I'm treating my chronic pain, I tend to want flower that's dominant in like myrcene. It's a very sedating terpene. I shop based on terpenes,
Right.
which a lot of people haven't kind of dialed that in yet, but it's basically the essential oils and the cannabinoids that are in the plant besides the THC and the CBD. Everybody's hung up on 2 percentages, and the whole plant is so much more than that.
There's so much more. I know I get on
So
my
much more.
soapbox rant a little bit when I go into the dispensaries and I see heavy hitters over 30% THC, and it's like, no,
Right.
that's not what we need, right? It's starting to squeeze out all the other good components of the plant, all the other cannabinoids, all the other terpenes and flavonoids. There's only so much that those little trichomes can hold, right? And when
Right.
we're trying to fill it with one of those molecules, it's taken away the rest of the entourage effect that is so beneficial.
We need to emphasize it is a plant. It was not created in a lab. Consistency is very important, though. So when I do find a cultivar that works, it's exceptionally disappointing when I can't get it again, or when that experience is different because the terp profile has changed because of different lighting or soil, or
Right.
it's older in the package than when it first went in,
Yeah.
and I find that when I dial it into the right terpenes for like my mind, my mental wellness, they include like limonene, pinene. Um, Pinene is amazing, alpha pinene for my cognitive function. That really
Okay.
helps dial it in. Um, but there's this strain that's called La Orange here in the States, and it's by Rhythm is the brand. And let me just tell you, that strain is consistent in every state it seems that I've gotten it in. And it really connects my dots. I mean, for those of you that don't know, cannabis connects my dots. Hence why I'm always in polka dots and usually a red blazer at an event. But I'm always spottable. That's the good news. But I really feel more research needs to be done on this. And but most importantly, if you guys get nothing else from this talk, be your own advocate. Learn all you can about your condition. And if somebody says, hey, if you looked at mast cell activation syndrome, you're going to find all kinds of really deep sciencey stuff, but you're also going to find like support groups. And that's where I found, like, for the breast implant illness, Facebook groups, mast cell activation, again, Facebook groups, learning that so many women with breast implants had mast cell.
Well, I thank you so much. I really loved our talk today. There was so much in there. There's so much to kind of uncover and think about, right? Because being your own advocate is so important, and we like to push that all the time. You live in your body all of the time. Your doctor sees you for that 15 minutes every couple of years or whatever it is, right? They don't know you like you know you, and you need to let them know, because the surface is only what they see and what you tell them. So
Right.
if you're not paying attention to your own body and putting all blind trust in these doctors that don't know anything about you, where is that health going to bring you? That healthcare is not going to bring you somewhere. You need to be your best advocate.
You do, and you need to look outside of the traditional pharmaceutical model. Like, Western medicine is advanced and it's done amazing things, but let's go back and look at some holistic therapies. Let's go back and look at naturopaths and
Yes.
nutrition and exercise. And, if you eat 5,000 calories and you just sat on the couch all day, it's going to make you gain weight. If, you got to move your body.
Yeah. And just removing some of the toxins in our life, right? Like the toxic house cleaning products, the toxic food, like all the produced food and even toxic negativity, right? Like all the things that are in our life. When you can start removing that stuff from your environment, you're gonna naturally just start to feel better, and you gotta keep healthy.
You do. You
Yeah.
do. And, I hope people learn from this. It's not real comfortable talking about, breast implants and, being a little homicidal towards your son and being put on lithium. But again, these are all things I didn't know either.
Yeah.
And if I can help someone be less clueless during this journey, that's
Right.
why I share it.
And I thank you so much for your story. It's very impactful. There's so much to learn in here. I hope you don't have more issues that we end up having a third interview, but I did love our talk. And anytime we can get together and chat some more, I would love that.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me, Michelle.
All right. Thank you so much.